belief is a thought that you continue to think. And therefore, no one would proclaim, or almost no one would proclaim their beliefs irrational, because they thought about them, something manifested, they focused on what manifested, it perpetuated itself. So that wouldn't be irrational, would it? When you believe something, life has usually proven it to you. And when you hear things that other people have been living, and you hear it enough, then you activate something within yourself. So when it's active within you, so we wouldn't call it irrational, and we wouldn't call it right, and we wouldn't call it wrong. We would call it wanted or unwanted. And then we would do our best to focus more on the wanted beliefs and less on the unwanted beliefs. But we wouldn't try to sort it out in terms of whether it's right or wrong or irrational or not irrational. It's just how much airtime, how much thought time and talk time have I given to it before it manifests. Can you feel what we're talking about how life has caused you to create a vibrational reality of what you want? And is it logical, is it rational, that what you've put into your vortex is a sturdy, safe bridge? That when you worry about something, that you ask for something that you want. Would you say that your vortex has well-being and the understanding of well-being and the means to well-being contained within it? That's logical, isn't it? Then the question that we want to put to you is, do you feel that what you would call a normal human lives more in the world of the newspaper and the warnings and the trials and tribulations, or more in the world of the vortex? A lot of people are worried about a lot of things. And even though so many people are worried about so many things, most things go very well for most people most of the time. So the well-being is so dominant, even though you, from our point of view, irrationally worry about so many things. So when you look at it that way, and then you acknowledge, well, there's so much in the news, or there's so much that comes to me, or so many people are worried about so many things, and especially in these days, there are so many people pushing against so many things that if you're not replenishing yourself, if you're not pushing the restart button, if you're not giving yourself an opportunity to see the world a little bit through the eyes of Source, then you're just churning in all of these things that could be going wrong, and law of attraction is probably dealing out to you enough things that you don't want in your experience that you're confirming your beliefs in what we are calling irrational things. So when we say you can't get there from there, what we mean is you can't continue to just sort out what's happening in a manifested world and call them good and bad and right and wrong, because the good things then are active in your vibration and the bad things are active in your vibration, and the right things are active in your vibration and the wrong things are active in your vibration, and you're just this scrambled vibrational mess being buffeted around like a cork on the sea, and you have no sense of well-being because you're not allowing yourself to have it. And under those conditions, we could not give you enough words or enough calming or enough statistics, because it's not the reality of it that you're responding to anyway. It's your vibration. And so if you're trying to get yourself to a good feeling place by sorting through the content of the manifested world and gathering statistics on how things go for you about that and how things go for you about that, have you paid any attention to what's going on with your statistic gathering these days? Doesn't it make you crazy? It's like, how do you even know what's real in that statistic world? Because nobody can accurately gather the statistics. There's too many moving parts. There are too many things that are happening and too many things that have been happening. You're not ever going to sort all of that out. You have no choice if you are ever going to want to feel good other than to let that quiet for just a little while you tune in to what your inner being knows about who you are. And once you tune there, then you'll have less and less and less and less access to all of those thoughts. You'll find yourself saying to your friends, I just never see anything going wrong in the world, but when you watch television, it looks like it's all going wrong. You might not know it, but there are people on this planet who look all around the world for the minuscule percentage of things going wrong. And they capture them on video and sound. And then they put them in pipelines and they feed them into your homes for you to look at. And they give you the impression that there's so much more of that happening than there is. And if you watch enough of that, you'll lose your sense of your own well-being. And when you lose your sense of your own well-being, then even though it's being flooded to you and you're being offered guidance and your inner being is offering you reassurance, you're not in the receptive mode of the reassurance, you're in the receptive mode of the statistics of things going wrong. Jerry and Esther went to Buffalo some years ago. And as they turned on the television, there was a program of what the local community was doing. And they had taken all the high school kids into the football arena. They had dragged in a lot of cars that had been badly damaged in accidents. Some of them still had blood and guts in them. In other words, everything bad that they can find. And if there wasn't evidence of a terrible accident, then they made it look like there was evidence of a terrible accident. And then they assigned everyone in the student body a role in this giant play that they were going to play. You are a victim and you died in a crash, and you are the parent of this victim and you will plan a funeral. And you are the friends of this victim and you will go to the funeral and you will try to make the parents feel better. Everyone in the student body had a role to play in this scenario of terrible things happening that you don't want to happen. And they were determined that this was the way they were going to prevent their children from having accidents. And we said to Jerry and Esther, as they were seeing the details of the program going by, they don't even realize that they're activating within these kids a vibration that makes them more likely to see more of this than they would if they were teaching them about well-being. In other words, you get what you think about, whether you want it or not. But the well-being is so dominant that it's not necessary that you get what you think about. One day we were visiting with a woman and she was really upset. She said, something has happened to me. It's new to me. I'm afraid to drive across the bridge. She said, I've been driving across these bay bridges most of my life and suddenly I'm afraid to drive across the bridge. What's going on? We said, it sounds to us like you've picked up on some thought forms, which she really did not like the idea of. She said, what do you mean? We said, something has activated that within you. What do you think it might be? Oh, all of a sudden she knew. Her neighbors had been burglarized and she'd been attending some neighborhood meetings. Should we put bars up on our windows? Should we get a neighborhood watchman? So something totally unrelated to a bridge had her attention, but it activated within her a feeling of vulnerability. And now that feeling of vulnerability was showing up because people going across the bridge, some of them do feel vulnerable. And now she's got vulnerable activated in her vibration. Now she's feeling vulnerable when she goes across the bridge. It's not irrational because these vibrations abound, but it is something that you can do something about. There are so many thoughts swirling around you. You can't protect yourself from them, but you can tune yourself to other thoughts. When you get in your car, let's say there are 20 radio stations. Of course, there are many more than that available, but let's say there are 20 radio stations. 3 of them you really, really like. And most of them you don't care that much for. And 2 or 3 of them you really, really, really don't like. Well, it's not logical that you'll be in your car and those radio stations that you don't like are going to come to you no matter where you set your dial. Wait, you shouldn't be on that one. What are you doing? They're only going to show up when you tune to the frequency that they are broadcasting from. And the same is true of everything. Nothing will come to you unless you have an active vibration about it. And the good news is, since you can't get it done because life is constantly coming to you and you never get it wrong, the good news is that when something does happen that makes you uncomfortable, you put into your vortex a greater desire to feel better. When something makes you feel vulnerable, you launch a rocket to be more secure. When something makes you feel afraid, you launch a rocket to be more secure. Your vortex just gets stronger and surer the more life you live. And at some point, it's really helpful to acknowledge that, hey, I've got all of this that I've created out of this, and I can choose either one. I can choose this life of well-being, or I can choose this life of fear. And how do you know which you're choosing? Because neither is going to manifest instantaneously. How do you know which path you're on? By how you feel. Or you could wait till you get there and experience the manifestation of it. We could talk to you all day today and tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day, and we could say things that make you feel a little less worried. But until you do something about deactivating that vibration, it's just going to show up and show up and show up and show up. And so some things that we want you to realize: when you sleep, the momentum of your thoughts subside. So first thing in the morning, it is easier for you to choose a better feeling thought. And we recommend that always. But if you can find the time, just yourself, don't rope anybody else into it. Just yourself, go someplace where you can have a few minutes alone and just get yourself to a more settled place and notice how much better you feel even on that first day and the second day and the third day and the fourth day. And we promise you, these feelings must go away because they are unnatural to the truth of who you really are. They will go away. They'll stop pulling at you in time. But don't ask law of attraction to make you the one exception. Don't say, well, I'm just going to keep worrying about this and I'm going to get feeling better anyway. You're not. What's going to happen is you're going to worry, and then you're going to ask stronger, and then you're going to worry, and you're going to ask stronger, and you're going to worry, and you're going to ask stronger, until you're going to come to realize it's the tug of war within you that is the problem, not even the idea of being burglarized. It feels like I'm mad at that person or I'm worried about that situation, when what's really got you down is that you've got contradictory energy going on inside of yourself, because you're asking for something you're not letting in, and then you're asking stronger for something you're not letting in, something that you already own, something that you deserve, something that your inner being knows about you. And your inner being is never going to let loose of its knowing of your well-being. And your inner being is never going to stop broadcasting to you its knowledge of your well-being. And that's most of the problem right there. Esther has been so annoyed at us on so many occasions. Abraham, if you'd stop knowing so much who I am, then it wouldn't hurt me so much when I'm not there. And we say, too bad. You're the one who has to adjust into the goodness. We're never going to adjust into the absence of it. Your inner being is never going to stop vying for your well-being. And every time you think a thought in contradiction to that, you're going to feel bad. And it's not because you're going to be burglarized. This is really good. So you've been hearing us talking about getting ready, to be ready, to be ready, to be ready, to be ready. Can you hear how you could be ready for something you don't want by talking about it, and then even more ready for something you don't want, and then even more ready until you're finally burglarized? And then you say, see, I knew I was not safe. Well, you did know, and law of attraction helped you prove what you believed. Or you could believe that you're invincible. You could believe that you're guided. You could believe that you're inspired. Esther said to her sister, how many people are in your family? She has 5 girls, and they have children, and they have children. In other words, there's all of these grandkids and even some great-grandkids, and there are 45 people in that family, and all of them living well-being. Esther says, I just love thinking about all these people that we know, the predominance of well-being that surrounds us. And that doesn't mean that somebody doesn't have occasional glorious experience of reemerging in the non-physical. That's all part of the plan too. But you're supposed to feel good, and you're supposed to feel satisfied, and you're supposed to feel safe, and you're supposed to know love, and you're supposed to experience well-being. That's the only thing that's natural. And when you find some screwy thought that is so off from that, you're not ever going to feel good as long as you're thinking that thought. And it's not because there's something after you. It's because you're not letting in what is flowing to you.